Tough matchup for Yoshihiko Ikawa.
All right, well, let's find out what happens. It's time for our first quarterfinal here at Pro Tour Thunder Junction. I'm going to send things over to Marshall and Monty.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maria. Welcome to the booth here. It is, of course, Sunday. There is that chill quiet in the room of anticipation before the top 8 starts, and walking in today, you could definitely sense the tension. It's really awesome. It's one of the best feelings in competitive Magic. Before we kick things off here, and that's exactly what we're about to do, we are heading right into our first quarterfinal match, and this is going to be, Monty, between Yoshihiko Ikawa and Sean Goddard. Let's see them as they come out on to the stage here. There's Yoshihiko. Won the RC from Japan, Korea, and was very excited to be back on the PT. And you see Sean walk out now as well. Matchups-wise, they just talked about it at the desk. Domain ramp in the hands of Ikawa. Goddard, Temur, Analyst.
Yeah, we saw Ikawa really take advantage of the high concentration of Esper mid-range in the field, really dominated the Swiss portion, made it to the top 8 very easily, but only one Esper in this top 8, and this Temur Analyst deck, this can really go over top of all of these powerful Angels that we have seen the Domain ramp deck try to utilize, so it's a much tougher matchup that Ikawa has ahead of him in this top 8.
As you can see, there's 3 little circles next to each player's names. Those represent game wins. We are playing a best 3 out of 5 here. The first 2 games will be pre-sideboarded, and any games after that will include sideboards.
Ikawa hoping not to be a victim of his own success here, being the first seed after dominating the Swiss, and getting a matchup like this, never what you like to see, but of course, no matchup is that skewed in this current standard format, so even though it's a bit of a tougher matchup, it's certainly not an unwinnable matchup for Ikawa. There is still plenty of play, and a lot of it does rely on cards like Leyline Binding being an answer to this Nissa Resurgent Animist that the Temur Analyst deck is trying to use.
You see up the beanstalk here to kick things off for Ikawa, and now Glimpse the Core is going to be the follow-up play. That's just a one of.
Yeah.
Nothing yet for Goddard.
Only fetches basic force out of the deck, so you can't really play too many, considering the deck is only playing 3 basic force, I believe. But you are looking for that 2-mana ramp spell that we don't really get in standard these days. This is the type of effect that typically costs 3 mana now in most cases, or there's very heavy restrictions on it. Gone are the days of rampant growth. So very much a, I need something in this early game to get me to what I'm doing later on.
Yep.
All right, Sean's going to play a namesake card for his deck. That's Aftermath Analyst.
Yeah, you very much see the kindly place 3 graveyard piles, both for us as the viewers, for his own sake, and as well as the opponent. We have the lands in the middle. Those are the relevant pieces being brought back by the Analyst or Splendid Reclamation. The Memory Deluge just being able to be cast from the graveyard, and then everything else that doesn't matter quite as much.
Okay, sorry. Last again.
Ikawa just having a quick chat with our card spotters. Very kind.
Yes.
I have done that job before. It is very difficult.
Yeah, it is always nice when the players are happy and willing to actively engage and make sure that life is easier for the broadcast, and it is making for the best show for the viewers at home.
We certainly appreciate it here in the booth as well. Leyline Binding is going to hit the battlefield. That, of course, is going to trigger up the beanstalk as well as get rid of that Aftermath Analyst.
Yeah, Leyline Binding already great. Feels a lot better when it draws a card.
You see Nissa Resurgent Animist on the battlefield.
Doing its best Lotus Cobra impression.
Right.
Gone are those days.
Yeah. You just named 2 cards that were kind of staples for a while and they're no longer here. Though the tools we have now aren't too bad either.
No, definitely we are seeing power creep isn't the exact word, but as Magic has evolved, we are seeing where the design spaces can really go over time as the game reaches 30, 35 years old.
Okay.
And you can see Sean has that green mana symbol. That's just to anytime that there's going to be mana floating.
Pass.
Sometimes it disappears as phases end. But when it is relevant, that'll help us track it home as well as Sean and Yoshihiko on the battlefield here.
The Nissa was able to go and get an Aftermath Analyst from those two triggers, but Sean doesn't really want to expose two of his key creatures to a potential board wipe spell. We know this domain ramp deck is
Double herd migration here? Oh, we sure are. This is end step here for Ikawa. Sean had passed a turn back. And, let's get some lands.
Get some basics out of the deck, gain some life. Life is pretty important here because if you are able to disrupt the Analyst deck enough, there is only so much that they can do in a certain turn. If you're keeping the Nissa off the board, if you're keeping, for example, Spelunking off the board, then they may have to go for a Virtue turn into a capped World Souls Rage and pass, and then you may be able to recover from there.
Ikawa has another Leyline Binding. And that up the beanstalk really kind of turboing here, because if you look at the rest of the hand here for Ikawa, a lot of lands in an Atraxa.
Yes. And another land getting picked up here. Rafine's Tower at least cycles, but
Jeez.
It is lacking. Yeah. It is lacking that sort of effect that Ikawa would really like to be able to do something here leading into that Atraxa turn that is more or less guaranteed next turn.
Okay, Rafine's Tower cycle. Was that another Atraxa?
I believe that was a second Atraxa getting picked up.
Well, next turn should be interesting.
Yeah, and Sean is still pretty far away from assembling anything. There is an Analyst in hand, but thanks to Ikawa being able to keep the Nissa off the board, thanks to the fact that there isn't really much happening here, he does ramp, but he is still a little slowed down.
Yeah. 20, yeah. Okay. And I'll also be fetching with this one. Okay, okay. So I'll do these 3. 25.
So shortcutting, 3 fetches that are going to happen here. The 2 lands brought back from the World Souls Rage for 2, and then 1 played from the hand.
Yeah. And after set round, okay.
Yes.
So 3 lands.
3 lands coming, says Ikawa.
Yeah. And this is Sean just confirming, of course, there is ultimately a restriction on these new Capenna lands on what basics each one can go and get.
Right.
So while you are shortcutting it, and a lot of the time it is trivial, you do want to make sure that, for example, the Maestro's Theater, you don't have any swamps to get. So you want to make sure, okay, this one is getting the island, and then these 2 are green, and they can go fetch forest for me.
Okay, so now we're going to see Atraxa Grand Unifier hit the battlefield. There's also trigger from up the beanstalk on that.
It really needed 1 more card, I think. I think Atraxa, usually being a 7/7 flying vigilance, lifelink, death touch, draw 5 cards isn't enough. I think draw 6 is what you're looking for. Or in this case, draw 3.
This is a tough one.
Ikawa already has another Atraxa, so I don't think that is going to be the pickup here. I think it's going to be Archangel plus one of the cycle Triumphs, most likely, given the build-up of Ikawa's hand here.
How big of a problem is Atraxa on the battlefield for Sean's deck?
It's a decently big problem. It is removable, and most of the time you're hoping to go over top of it. Right now, Sean's hand isn't doing a great job of that, but the deck is capable of it. You can combine something like Fires of Victory plus Ill-Timed Explosion, or just Fires of Victory if you have enough cards in hand to get rid of the Atraxa. But each time that this hits, the amount of damage that you ultimately need to deal as Sean goes up. This deck is capable of generating absurd amounts of mana, but it's not quite infinite. It is just large numbers. So as Ikawa's land count, life total goes up and up, the amount of work that Sean needs to do is also increased. And because Ikawa has answers to cards like the Virtue of Strength, sometimes the onus is going to be on Sean to do everything in one turn, and that may be difficult.
There's another Aftermath Analyst now for Sean, though it looks like it didn't hit any lands this time. Maestro's Theater's going to hit the bin as well, and up to 26 is Sean now.
Mountain. As you like, as you like. Sure.
And Sean's going to go ahead and activate the Analyst straight away.
4 gain, 30.
When these hit the battlefield, they get sacrificed. So 4 searches coming, plus 4 more life.
Sean's deck plays 16 basics total. Currently, there's 9 on the battlefield and 4 more coming here, assuming each of these sacrifice lands can find the proper basic, as you do see him laying it out here in front of each one. So this is, I believe, 13 of the 16 basics in Sean's deck coming out. That leaves 3 more to be fetched. So now he really does need to utilize that Shigeki in hand to get back some of these key pieces in the graveyard, like the Analyst as well as the Nissa.
All right, well, Ikawa does get to hit with Atraxa here.
Three to 31.
Atraxa's been one of the awesome creatures printed in the last few years. You know, to me, it looked like, oh yeah, okay, some big splashy legend with a bunch of text. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I'll figure it out later type of card. And then it showed up in Vintage Cube and Standard, and it's like, okay, wait a minute now. This thing actually has a lot of play to it.
I think it's one of those cards that, you know, started out as a legendary creature, and it's like, okay, well, this doesn't feel legendary enough. Let's make it a little stronger. So you add another keyword to it. Let's make it a little stronger. You add another keyword to it. Let's make it a little bigger. You add like +3/+3 to it. You're like, perfect. This will be the best casual card. And suddenly constructed players are like, ooh, you added a lot to this
You
thing.
see him kind of peeking around the
It's
corner.
like, huh, hey, Atraxa. You're looking mighty tempting for my ramp/reanimator/ cheating creatures into play deck.
No kidding. It is interesting because that really, Atraxa really does hit all of those. Like some people play it fair and just want to cast it like we see here, and that works very well. But if you can get it into play early, it pays you back with the life gain a lot of the time. And even if you can only get it into play for half a second, you still get the trigger. You see Cavernous Souls now for Ikawa.
Ikawa picked up a copy of Imidane's Recruiter, which is nice. That is able to provide a big burst of damage. Unfortunately, he did discard 2 Herd Migrations earlier
I forget to remove this.
going after basics, so he doesn't have those available. There's a dinosaur remaining from a previous game.
Yeah, he said, I
Likely
forgot to
for
remove
Gary
it,
Stomper.
but also I'm not going to change it.
Yeah, I'm good with this.
35.
So there is a big burst element being represented by Ikawa here, and Sean has a lot of mana to work with, has Shigeki, so everything in the graveyard is more or less free game except for this Nissa. I believe Shigeki cannot get back legendary permanents. So a lot of things
You're right.
free game here in that graveyard, that Virtue plus the Analyst being very important. But, you know, it is still going to be a test to clear off this board and try to close out the game if you're in Sean's seat.
Yeah, I wonder if Ikawa has lethal next turn. My assumption would be no.
Yeah, currently has 10 represented on the board. The Recruiter can make 2 more 2/2s, so that'll be 14. And then playing the Recruiter itself with that ability will add another 2 + 4. So that is 20 if Sean was to do nothing.
Okay, so it is actually lethal.
It is, but
Sean has to do absolutely nothing.
yeah, nothing is a big ask against this deck. And I think Sean is currently doing the math Now, there is a roundabout way of getting Nissa back using Shigeki, which is channeling Shigeki to get back the Virtue, and then casting the Adventure side of Virtue to get the Nissa back. Garen Brigg Growth. Add it to the list.
Put it on the list.
Ardenvale Fealty?
Yeah.
Nuh-uh. Garen Brigg Growth.
I like it.
Fealty is a thing of the past.
At least for us this round.
Now, using this Shigeki here will give Sean enough cards in hand to be able to use Fires of Victory to take out Atraxa, which is a good start. That takes a large chunk of the damage, at least, off the board, and should, in theory, prevent Ikawa from being able to lethal this turn. The question is, what can Sean do with the time that it buys him?
Yeah, because we know that Ikawa has another Atraxa waiting in the wings at least.
Ill-timed Explosion, discarding a Virtue would also do it here. But
And you see
discarding
that's
that,
exactly what happens.
discarding that Virtue, if it is the only one that Sean had available to him, as our hands get updated here, would mean that he no longer has the ability to buy back that Nissa. So he is left looking for another piece to find that assemble this, because a big part of this deck is when you get to this many lands, you'd like to either have a Nissa in play, so you're generating mana off of your Analysts and your World Souls Rages, or you'd like to have a Virtue in play, so you are generating absurd amounts of mana with the lands that you do have available to you. Neither of which are tools Sean currently has access to.
Good news for Sean is that he's still at 20 and is facing nothing. It will not stay that way for long, though, for Ikawa.
Long Goodbye is a pretty decent draw from Ikawa. It is one of the instant speed answers that he has available to him as removal. So now he may feel more confident just playing an Atraxa this turn, having the removal spell left up available to him. I think that was another copy of Leyline Binding as well. So now he has double removal spell available, one of which hits a Virtue. So I think this is a position where Ikawa should feel decently confident, but definitely still not safe against this Temur Analyst deck.
Much better this time, by the way, for the Atraxa.
Yeah,
get
Boseiju,
4
utility
cards.
land.
Looks like depopulate, spelunking, and then choosing between 2 creatures.
He does have 2 lands there, so he does need to choose one of them, as you do see the proving ground being put back. Can't take 2 of those. I would guess Angel is the choice, but one thing to consider is with Imide's Recruiter in hand, you are incentivized to have multiple cheap plays that you can make. So Topiary Stomper, that's 5 damage of haste being represented by the Imide's Recruiter for only 3 mana versus the Angel's 4 damage for 4 mana, assuming you don't kick it. So you can do more by taking the cheaper creature. But on the flip side, you have Reach and the Angel being able to send 4 damage to the face. So this is the option that Ikawa is weighing right now, and probably just doing some math of what the next turn looks for him if he's making a push at trying to lethal Sean in 1 turn.
Yeah, looks like he's going to go for the Stomper here. Oh, cancel that order. It is going to be Archangel of Wrath.
You see Ikawa looking up.
One last math check.
I've been there. Mental math, you're just running the numbers, and you know, you don't want to make it too blatantly obvious what you're counting, but you are counting.
Yeah.
This is hard.
Might actually be the Stomper
I think
after
he's
all.
going with the Stomper. I like it.
Okay.
I like this choice. I think it's a good call. I think it gives you the best chance of winning this game in the quickest time, and I do think you do need to close it out sooner rather than later. Sean is lacking pieces, but this deck is so powerful that it is very much not a given that Ikawa is in a safe spot right now. There's Ikawa going to discard, by the way. Has already put the depopulate there. That one is definitely going, deciding between keeping the second Spelunking versus not, and ultimately discarding as far as headquarters.
And again, you see that long goodbye and Leyline Binding both in hand here for Ikawa.
Second L-timed explosion, probably not what Sean was looking for in this spot. He would like to get things going with either a Nissa or a Virtue here. Virtue would be a pretty great draw, just having access to that. What is it called, Marshall?
Garen Briggs Growth?
That's the one. All right, having access to that Garen Briggs Growth.
Oof.
You passed the test.
That was really close, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, we got into the tech there. Having access to the Garen Briggs Growth would be really powerful here because it would also lead into that Virtue, which, again, Sean with, I believe, 14 of his basics out right now, if I'm doing
That's impressive.
my rough math right. And probably getting the last two out of that deck as well now with this World Souls Rage, is in a spot where landing a Virtue would immediately allow Sean to tap the remaining 9 lands for 27 mana. Now, 27 mana for World Souls Rage is 25, and Yoshihiko has padded his life total to the point where 25 is no longer lethal. That is the one-turn kill that you're really hoping for as the Analyst deck if you've been stopped, if you've been interrupted so you don't have Nissa and you aren't generating absurd loops.
Well, he's going to have to settle for just getting rid of Atraxa this time for passing the turn back. On end step, Ikawa is going to cycle a Jetmir's Garden and once again look to rebuild. You see Topiary Stomper and the Imidane's Recruiter. Ooh, and an Archangel of Wrath. Is this going to be a big attack turn now for Ikawa? Setting up a Recruiter after something else?
It's interesting. You'd really like the Recruiter to be a massive turn just because you know with the existence of ill-timed explosion in Sean's deck and potentially hand in the spot, whatever board you present is most likely going to get wiped. And if you haven't dealt enough damage, then that is the end of your one Imidane's Recruiter. There is only one in the deck. So that is the end of that. And suddenly you have to win almost fairly, playing a creature, passing the turn. Oh, you have an answer, you ill-timed explosion again, you World Souls Raged again. All right, it got wiped. So
23, so 39.
I don't know if Ikawa goes for the Recruiter here or just leaves up double removal again and presents 2 more threats and says, all right, wipe this one, I'll rebuild, rinse, repeat. But again, I think Ikawa, while padded, does feel the pressure of how many resources Sean has access to here.
Ikawa does pass the turn after playing his 2 creatures, but on end step, Sean has Memory Deluge to continue to dig.
I think he found a Virtue. I'm pretty sure I saw it in there.
And that's what's going to blow this game wide open for Sean mana-wise.
It is a big piece of the puzzle, is being able to play that Virtue. And even if Ikawa has an answer to it, which Sean knows that he does in that Boseiju, even with Ikawa having an answer to it, a lot of the damage would be done by just floating 27 mana when you play the Virtue, and then using that to carry on with everything else.
Yeah, because it's on the battlefield for some period of time. Here's ill-timed explosion. And this is the sequence that you were just outlining, right, Monty, where it's like, okay, I'm going to rebuild my board, likely to get swept away again. Hence, the Recruiter still being in hand here for Ikawa. So he just has to say, okay.
Discarding another explosion. Now there's 3 in the yard, so a lot of those gone. I believe Sean does play the full 4, so there's 1 left in the deck somewhere. But now the bigger issue is this Garen Briggs
Growth.
Thank you. This time
Not too much.
I passed the test with a little support. Does get back Shigeki, and this is this is the powerful loop, right? Because now the Shigeki can get back the other virtue in the graveyard, which is a Garen McGrowth that can get back the Shigeki. So Sean has infinite resources available to him now, but not infinite mana yet.
Right.
Or, you know, never really infinite mana, but gets pretty darn close with enough loops and things on the board.
So does this mean that just over the course of the next couple of turns, we'll see Ikawa's life total plummet and Sean can pick up the win that way?
I think what is going to happen realistically is Ikawa is going to build another board with some damage here, and if Sean can last one more setup turn, then I think Ikawa will just die in one very explosive and potentially lengthy turn from Sean.
Okay. It's going to be a Topiary Stomper to start the rebuild once again for Ikawa. You may not notice it based on the life totals, but Ikawa has actually done significant damage to Sean in this game. But Sean has gained a ton of life and is still at a very healthy 24.
Ikawa just drew a big piece.
What did he hit?
He hit him Herd Migration.
Oh.
Herd Migration has 15 power to the board, which with a Recruiter is 20 in and of itself. So we are at the point where Ikawa could win the game next turn if Sean gives him a next turn. The question is, will Sean do that, or can Sean finish this? And notably, Sean is a veteran Lotus Field combo player.
Oh.
He played that to great success at the previous Pro Tour and Pioneer. So these long, convoluted combo turns where you have a lot of decisions, but by navigating it right, you can ultimately win in dire straits. This is something that Sean is used to. This is something that he can very much navigate correctly and properly.
Yeah, I was going to say, he looks very comfortable with these. I mean, this is just a lot going on even right now. All these lands, you can see the graveyard laid out properly.
So Ikawa has access to, I believe, I'm counting 7, 12, 13 mana.
Okay.
So won't be able to go Herd Migration plus Train Troops plus Imidane's Recruiter. Is a little short of that, which means that with Sean at 24, he's a little short of lethal right now. He'll need something else, like a Topiary Stomper off the top would be good enough.
And he would have enough mana to do all of those things.
He would have enough mana to do Herd Migration into a Stomper, into a Recruiter. And if Sean hasn't gained too much life here by going, for example, the Analyst and getting back all of these new Capenna lands to gain, what is that, 8 more life here?
Yeah.
Then he would have enough. But one Analyst loop here would probably do a ton of work.
And you gain the life either way on the land?
You gain the life either way, even if you don't fetch something.
Fail to find the land.
Yeah, exactly.
Succeed in finding the life, huh?
So here's the Virtue coming down, and this is Sean having access to.
So this triples
Each line
every one of these.
taps for triple. So that's 15, 18.
Wow.
21. And
0.
undo. Now,
Sean definitely thinking about Imidane's Recruiter on the other side here, right? Just
Float.
Sean has to be considering the existence of that one copy of Imidane's Recruiter.
because everything else, I don't think Sean cares about,
No.
right?
There's nothing that can beat Sean's value loop now of being able to go Shigeki, get back a growth plus an ill-timed explosion, wipe your board, do it all again. There's nothing that beats that loop in Ikawa's deck at sorcery speed. He needs to have one turn burst.
Kawa's tried. He's built up a board every single turn for the past 4 or 5 turns, but Sean has quite easily dispatched of any threats on the other side.
All right, 18.
18. Okay, I will raid you for a total of 18 mana.
So 16.
Raid you for X is 16.
X60.
And this
Not
is
that much.
it's not that much, but it is 8 lands coming back, and that is 8 life being gained. And I think that puts Sean at a point where Ikawa cannot do anything to kill him next turn.
Even with a fortunate top deck of another threat.
Even with, let's say, top decking the most mana efficient threat, which is, I believe, a Topiary Stomper, I don't think Ikawa can do 32 to Sean. 23 is what Ikawa has in hand with the mana available to him right now.
Play Nissa.
Play Nissa.
Sure. That's done.
And that's going to be it for this turn for Sean. But it looks like at 32 life,
Ikawa gets a card here off the Leyline Binding,
right?
plus a draw for his turn. Long Goodbye could go after Nissa. Might be thinking that you want to Leyline Binding the Nissa instead, just to get rid of it permanently, because you can't regrow that. There is the Topiary Stomper.
Oh, even hit
But-
it. Oh, it's got to be frustrating for Ikawa.
So one thing Ikawa is considering here is, as presented right now, there isn't another Virtue of Strength in the graveyard, from what I can tell. And there isn't one in hand, from what Ikawa knows. So it's just Shigeki, which can't get back Nissa. Shigeki is normally trying to get back a Virtue, which gets back Shigeki, etc., etc. But right now, the infinite value loop is halted from Ikawa.
But at the cost of, oh, that's really interesting.
But, again, Ikawa's damage is capped. Sean's life is higher than that damage. And whatever Ikawa presents will get wiped again.
And there's the Topiary Stomper.
So Stomper pushes the math from 23 to 28, which is 4 less
Tantalizingly close.
than Sean has.
And there's basically no point in doing it unless it's getting him to 0.
I mean, he might feel like he has to do it,
But that's desperation.
yes, it's because he has nothing else in hand right now. So
Does get to draw a card off the Herd Migration. God, look at this turn Ikawa put together.
count 28.
Yeah, Ikawa really wants this to math out, and it doesn't.
I think he needed to draw the 4th Topiary Stomper there, and if that had a land to go get, you would have been able to present 33 damage here.
Well, again, this looks like a big flashy attack here from Ikawa.
4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 20, 5, 3. Yeah, 28.
And just like you said, Monty, 28 damage. Sean says, well, 4's not 0.
4
And
is
I've
on
got
0.
some fireworks on my side of the table here.
Ill-timed fireworks. It's not the 4th of July, you know.
It is true.
It is the end of April.
Ikawa at just 23 life. So low, so vulnerable.
Yeah.
Normally when you're at 23, you're feeling pretty good about yourself, but
At 23, I think Ikawa's just dead here.
yeah.
Yeah, I think Sean just goes Virtue, World Souls Rage you, and the only thing he has to worry about is that Herd Migration, the 4th one. Because,
As life gain.
yes, Ikawa is at 23 presenting,
Okay.
if you go for not wiping my board, if you go for lethal, you see the smile on Sean's face. Do you have the 4th one?
So if Sean goes for the board wipe, is there risk?
Not really.
The recruiter's
The recruiter's dead.
So how is Ikawa trying to get you from 4 to 0 if you just say, you know what, I'm just going to wipe the board here?
He has to worry about something like double Archangel of Wrath
Yeah,
going
okay.
to the face. So he'd like to wipe the board and gain some life, which he can do by firing off a World Souls Rage, getting back all of these lands, and then he'll be pretty safe. But obviously, you see the smile
This
because
is
he knows
funny. He's
he knows
really-
he can go for it. He knows he doesn't have to give this game another turn. But if Ikawa has that 4th Herd Migration, you lose. You lose the game that it really doesn't feel like you can lose.
That's virtue.
Virtue from Adventure. I'm really curious to see what Sean does here.
I think he's going for the explosion. I do not believe that Sean is going to risk what is, in my opinion, like a 98% won game in the quarterfinals of a Pro Tour on, do you potentially have the one-outer? There's just no reason.
He's going to wipe the board.
Get it out of here. Roll Soul's Rage for your remaining mana to the Dome. Get back all of these lands. Gain the life. Say, I don't think you can kill me. I've seen your deck list. Not only have I seen your deck list, realistically, Sean and probably some teammates spent multiple hours practicing this matchup last night, as many players in the top 8, when they know their matchup in the morning, usually do. Their teammates helping them. Sometimes you have multiple tables all playing the same matchup. Just, okay, what if we try this sideboard plan? What if we try this sideboard plan? This is what you should do in the pre-board games. This is what you should do post-board. The more you have in your testing team, of course, the better it is. But the Worldly Council testing house last night very much could have been a Temur Analyst against Domain Ramp, just full think tank.
Concede.
Ikawa says concede. And
He did his best.
That is a very long game number 1 going to Sean Goddard. Well-earned victory there as both players postured. You really got to see what each deck could do. I mean, we saw multiple Atroxes. Like, let's not forget, this was Haymaker City for both players. But ultimately, Sean packs a bigger punch when the game goes that long.
Yeah, I think that is...
Keep doing it again and again.
Exactly. That is the big issue that highlights why the matchup is considered so tough for Ikawa, is Ikawa ultimately has capped tools of doing damage on his turn without passing the turn to Sean. And when Sean gets all of his basics in play and he has all of these value loops available for him, turn after turn, any amount of sorcery speed pressure that is presented, Sean can answer. So Ikawa gets that one burst turn while Sean's life total is being padded and padded to make sure he doesn't die to that.
Does Ikawa have, realistic draws that could overwhelm Sean in a quick manner? I mean,
it can, and notably, Sean is at 5 cards this game. A mulligan to 5 for Sean. Ikawa kept 7 on the play.
Okay.
So as far as things go, Ikawa does have draws that can win the game quickly. Part of those draws typically involve Topiary Stomper, just because it does give you both that ramp and that large-ish body to present pressure. But the hand that Ikawa has right now, despite Sean's mulligan to 5, isn't presenting that much pressure. You have a card like Sunfall, which is pretty dead in the matchup. It's a little cute because you could use Sunfall in one of those turns later on in the game that I was talking about to wipe your own board, but have a Phyrexian Incubator token that Sean can't wipe on his turn, and then you can transform it into a creature on your turn and try to kill that way. That is one cute option that Ikawa has available to him that Moriyama Japan, they probably figured out, hey, this is, when we're desperate, this is a line we have available to us.
That's interesting.
But, that's pretty further down the line in the game.
You see the Aftermath Analyst now for Sean. For Ikawa, it was tap land, up the beanstalk, tap land.
Marshall, this is the holding your breath part of the game.
Yeah. Are we in that stage already?
This is what Domain Ramp does. Turns 2 through 5, you're holding your breath. It's like, all right, well, I'm just going to do my thing. I'm going to develop a bit. Don't do anything, please. Don't have anything broken.
Herd migration for Ikawa.
It's just what the deck does.
This is a slow march forward here so far. The migration's going to bump Ikawa up to 23. And he's also going to take out the Aftermath Analyst and draw a card with Leyline Binding. So that worked nicely. Good production from both players so far.
Yes. 21.
Take 2.
You up to 25.
World's
Rage.
Rage does so much for this deck. Just being your win condition, but also your ramp spell, and also your life gain spell, and also your removal spell. It really just does so much work, and it is a key part of why this Analyst deck just has the amount of game that it does.
So that was 4 mana, do 2, gain 2, ramp 2.
That's right. Pretty good.
It's really good for 4 mana.
Pretty good.
And that 2 happened to go to Ikawa because there was no other target, but, you know, in a different matchup, that could have killed a creature.
Absolutely.
Wow. You see that Sunfall in hand for Ikawa. I mentioned it at the beginning, but honestly, that was a little while ago now. We are playing best 3 out of 5 games that will win the match, and that means that this one, being game number 2, is still pre-sideboard.
Pre-sideboard means a lot of board wipes that Ikawa would like not in there, still in there. Post-board, Ikawa gets a lot of tools to work with. 2 of the best ones, 2 copies of Rest in Peace, 3 negates. These are all cards that can stop what is currently feeling like the I can't interact with what you're doing element of the matchup for Ikawa. So hoping to get to the post-sideboard games with a 1-1, that would be the dream, taking advantage of this mulligan to 5 from Sean. But ultimately, you're not presenting that much pressure right now. You're giving the Temur Analyst deck time, and time is not really something you can afford to give this deck because we saw the inevitability that it presents. 3 lands, Will.
Jeez.
Oh, you see Ikawa laughing. That was the dream scenario for Sean now.
Who has the 4 mana available with the Aftermath Analyst and just calmly says, your move. Let the beatdowns commence, though. Here comes Archangel of Wrath.
Stone cold mill 3 lands.
That's
Go.
tough. Speaking of lands, it's just land go here for Ikawa.
Okay.
Has a Leyline Binding, but 4 gain for Sean, up to 24. The fact that these lands gain 1 life each time, it really does just feel like if you are a slower deck like Ikawa is, you're in a position where you're making no headway on the life total of Sean, and eventually the game will just work itself out to the same position the previous one was in, where you're presenting sorcery speed threats.
Right.
And Sean is just like, all right, wipe them.
It's
Try it again.
interesting. Sean's on 5 cards here, but it really does feel like we're marching towards that same outcome at this point. As Ikawa is just unable to make any real headway as far as damage goes in the face of that life gain that you just mentioned, Monty. And then, I mean, look at how many lands Sean has all of a sudden. This is ridiculous.
I genuinely believe we are past the point of the game where Sean's mulligan to 5 mattered.
Right.
If it was going to matter, if it was going to kick in and take effect, it would have happened in the earlier turns of this game. Now that Sean has all these lands in the graveyard, now that Sean has a Spelunking, now that Sean has an Analyst, of course we know Ikawa has the answer to the Spelunking, so that's okay. This game feels like it is once again at the point where Ikawa has missed his window.
And here we go again. Oh, another 3 land hit
lands?
from the Analyst. Wow.
Look, Ikawa is a pro. He's been here before. This is his 3rd pro level top 8, Sean's 1st. And sometimes that's just magic, you know?
Absolutely.
Your opponent's analysts are just blessed.
Ikawa said, the first top 8, I made top 8. Second top 8, I made the semifinal. This top 8, trophy. At least that was the plan. Sean Goddard has other ideas, though, as Sean looks well poised to go up 2-0 in the match and force Ikawa to try to make an unlikely but possible, especially given sideboard, 3-game comeback.
It's not easy, but it's doable.
Rest in peace, right? I mean,
It's a big part of it. It is a big part, a big key here.
but we're not there just yet.
Not quite.
Sean still has to seal the deal. It just seems like this is a replay of the first game. Very similar outcome, or the way that it's played out is very similar. And we saw what happened in that first one.
Dinosaur named with Cavern.
Must be nice to be Sean and your opponent plays Atrox and you're like, yeah,
Yeah,
knock yourself out.
cool. You play a land already. Probably killing you on my turn. We'll
I mean,
see.
yeah, 'cause normally, you know, Atroxa is a signifier that the game has effectively ended.
Yeah. It is here as well, just not in the way Ikawa would like.
Good call, Money. It's true.
Ikawa tapping out for
Oh, you
Atraxa
tapped out?
here
Okay, we're good.
is likely a signifier that the game has ended. Just, I don't think it is in the way that Ikawa would like the game to end.
That was good. Uh-oh. Sean's counting. That's not what you want to see if you're Yoshihiko Ikawa.
You hate to see it. And Sean sort of has everything here. Sean has the Virtue, has another Garenbrig growth in hand, and the Nissa in the graveyard with the Analyst in play. So I think it's just done.
Anytime combo players start counting or aggro players start counting, it's not good
run.
for you.
Remember, all these lands fetched here will come into play untapped, so that does mean Sean has the ability to go for this Memory Deluge in hand as well. And
how do you not find?
I think it's over.
Yeah.
I'm pretty close to certain that this game is over. And as was sort of predictable the whole time, it is going to be a 2-0 lead for Sean going into the post-board games. Ikawa would have loved to, you know, get away with one. Just take one in the pre-board and make the job easier for himself post-board, where he actually gets to play the matchup with proper interaction. But that's not the case here.
Ikawa's kind of enjoying the show at this point. He's right alongside us and just saying, you have it all, my friend.
He was under no delusion. Oh, yeah.
Sean's actually just going to show him.
I got it all.
That he has it. He says, I'm happy to go through it if you'd like, but I am going to show you that.
Maybe.
Now we're counting again.
Yes, you have two, so maybe I did. Yeah, I know. 5, 6, 7, 7 mana. Okay, I did.
That's smart. Just double check there for Ikawa, but ultimately that is going to be a quick 2-0 lead from Sean Goddard. So that is right where you want to be.
Yeah, and, you know, Ikawa, under no sort of false pretenses here, believing that, look, I just got really unlucky and lost games that I should have won. He knows this was always going to be an uphill battle. He knew that this was the most likely outcome of the pre-board games. He has the sideboard plan prepared. Now it's just, I have no margin for error. I have no wiggle room. Back against the wall. Time to win some matches, some games of Magic post-board.
That's right, and that's what we're going to see when we come back. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, game number 3 from our first quarterfinal. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to coverage here of Pro Tour Thunder Junction. Marshall Sutcliffe with Monty DeVuti. We're in Seattle, Washington. It's early in the morning, but we are right into the action here on our first quarterfinal match. Two long-ish games, but both went very similar to one another. Sean Goddard ultimately picking up the victory.
Yeah, I think that was the outcome we expected. Pre-board, now post-board games. It's almost like a new match, just a very, very tough match for Yoshihiko Ikawa, but at least he has new life in the matchup with these sideboard tools that he has available to him.
So what are the big tools as we go back in and, you know, the players will have finished sideboarding and getting ready to play that game number 3? What are the things that we can look out for, perhaps if you haven't seen this matchup before, that are the silver bullets?
There's going to be a lot of emphasis on rest in peace and negate. Having access to those for Ikawa are going to allow him to really be interacting in the matchup where he couldn't previously on different axes. Rest in peace is the most important just because it puts an extra step in front of Sean, not only to remove it in order to be able to loop these pieces, but also if Ikawa can get rid of a large enough chunk of these new Capenna lands from Sean's graveyard with the Rest in Peace when it hits the battlefield, then those are gone permanently. Even if Sean removes the Rest in Peace, he won't have access to those for his mana generation later on.
So there's kind of a sorcery mode and then a I'm going to stick around mode as well.
Exactly.
Speaking of 2-mana enchantments, up the beanstalk. It's done good work for Ikawa this match. He's had it each game, and he's drawn multiple cards off it over the course of the game, so it's fine. Hasn't been enough to push him over the top, of course.
It will help more when, as he did find the Rest in Peace, it will do more when the cards that you are drawing into actually have weight and value in the matchup. Previously, it's like, oh no, I drew a Depopulate or a Sunfall or some lands, and it's like, But now you've shaved the cards that you're not hoping to draw, and that means that a much larger portion of your deck are hits when it comes to drawing cards in the matchup, and that gives them value.
So what happens with the Rest in Peace here? Is this the type of thing that Ikawa will deploy at his convenience, or is he going to try to time it?
I think he is going to hit it the first time that he's not making another meaningful play with his deck. So
you do just run it out there ultimately.
Yeah, you run it out there. You say that I'm going to make you remove this. I'm going to have value available to me. One of the nice things about having access to this up the beanstalk for Ikawa is a lot of the answers that Sean has available in his sideboard to enchantment specifically are copies of Pick Your Poison. Each opponent sacrifices an enchantment.
Right.
Well, you know what? I like my Rest in Peace. I'm going to bin this up the beanstalk and say, I'm going to keep this one in play.
That's
so
really nice.
That is something that Sean will have to fight through. Is this up the beanstalk is essentially a shield counter for the Rest in Peace.
Yeah, and it's a relevant one too. And by the way, there's Rest in Peace straight away. That's going to nab 2 of those lands.
All right, we have a
Those
game.
are not coming back. Game on.
Game on.
Spelunking on the side there for Sean Goddard, and you see the Topiary Stomper for Ikawa. No damage just yet coming across from Ikawa. He's got a little bit more to go. But ultimately, it's more about stopping Sean than it is about trying to kill him in some super quick fashion.
Right.
And he's doing that. He's got the Rest in Peace. There's another land that's not coming back.
Yeah, Sean has
Looks like that was the only land he had.
post-sideboard means. We see that Titan of Industry in hand.
Yeah.
Not only is it a great way to remove a Rest in Peace because of the naturalized mode that is on it, but it is also a large threat that doesn't care about the graveyard being gone. So those do exist. The thing is, Sean is slowed down. Right now, we see normally Sean would love to fire off a World Soul's Rage for 3 here, get back 3 lands, ramp 3 more times. That's no longer an option available to him.
Looks like Sean has a bent sleeve and is looking to replace it.
Let's just get that fixed.
Yeah, Titan of Industry seems really well positioned here. Can't be negated, is a big threat, blows up Resonance Piece specifically.
Just untap, not drawing.
And no counter spells in Ikawa's deck for the Titan. He's not answering that in any meaningful way until after it's entered the battlefield, and by that point, it is too late. Ikawa isn't even packing cards like Tishana's Tidebinder, for example, trying to counter that trigger. This card is almost certainly hitting the battlefield and doing the damage that it does with that trigger. But that's a ways away. Still needs 2 more lands. Needs a green land specifically. Does have some draw spells available to him, but it's not free. It does feel a lot of the time like this Temur Analyst deck is marching towards inevitability, and all of its plays come freely. But once Rest in Peace is in play, there is a hurdle added. So things become a little more difficult for Sean.
Do you think that Sean has any ability to swerve around a Rest in Peace? Can he take a different tack with the deck overall, or is it too committed to graveyard stuff?
The deck can win while Rest in Peace is on the battlefield. It's just slower. The big benefit and the reason the matchup is still good for you is Ikawa doesn't present a particularly fast clock.
Right.
We're on turn 5 now, with the ramp coming from the Topiary Stomper, of course. Ikawa has made 0 attacks, has dealt 0 damage to Sean. Sean is still at 24. Yes, he doesn't have his graveyard. Yes, he doesn't have the ability to ramp as much. His Analysts are worse. His World Soul Rages are worse, but he has all of his life total. He's resolving a Memory Deluge right now. That's 2 more cards added. Ultimately, all it takes is 2 more land drops, and Sean has the Titan of Industry in play.
Yeah.
Rest in Peace is gone. A 7/7 needs to get answered. Probably making a 4/4 as well. This is not an easy thing for Ikawa to answer.
Seems like a very difficult matchup for Ikawa. Ooh, Doppelgang into hand there for Sean.
A very sweet one of typically
that's
in
nice.
these decks.
Okay, here's Pick Your Poison now from Goddard, so that will take away.
Good
There
one,
it
Beanstalk.
goes. The beanstalk as you described earlier, Monty.
I think Ikawa may have been considering playing this copy of Leyline Binding in hand in response, trying to take out the Spelunking and drawing a card off of it, but ultimately deciding, I think this is more important to keep here.
Man, this is kind of a dream for, for players that just love big, splashy effects. I mean, look at these hands. Doppelgang, Titan of Industry. On the other side, you've got Herd Migration waiting to come down.
This really
it's not
is.
every day you get to see this level of power displayed. I mean, look at this. Herd Migration, sure. And the funny part is they don't really stop each other. They're
No.
both just like, yeah, you got it.
Just a Godzilla versus Kong clash of titans.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll do a big thing, you do a big thing, and
not a lot of subtlety between these two when it comes to how you win, right? It's just dump a huge amount of mana into some massive effect and see if it's enough. I love it.
I'll throw out a big board, you throw out some fireworks, my board is gone, I cry a little, all right, back to the match, let's focus, get it together. You know, the stages of life.
That's right. I am curious to see if some life gain from Ikawa's side. It seems even more important here when your opponent can't just keep buying back these cards to do damage to you, World Soul's Rage and such. Is this ill-timed explosion?
It is.
Ooh, there's another Pick Your Poison.
Yep, and Ikawa is tapped out, so can't even go Leyline Binding in response to protect this Rest in Peace. So this could be Sean getting rid of the first Rest in Peace. Ikawa does play 2, but only 1 drawn so far.
There it is. Do you
Goodbye.
feel like the Rest in Peace has done its job?
Kind of, not fully, but it has certainly done a very good job of making it so I believe 5, maybe 6 of the new Capenna lands are gone now.
Spelunking here for Ikawa.
Of the 13 that the deck
Yeah.
plays, by the way.
Okay. Looks like it's going to be Stomper next.
Spelunking into Stomper, leave up Leyline Binding. Would have loved the Spelunking before, be able to protect your Rest in Peace, but you know, it is what it is.
My eyes to see there is no white mana available, right? Isn't that a proving ground?
That is a proving ground.
Huh.
So,
I guess binding not a priority at this point.
not right now.
Long goodbyes available.
And representing a negate,
Definitely.
that is something Sean has to be aware of. Of course, Sean will almost certainly just slam a Titan here. Boom.
Sean
Taking care
saying,
of your
well,
modes.
why not, right? I know that, you know, being able, keeping that as as a way to blow up a Rest in Peace is a part of the consideration, but like there's already one gone and now you could just pull way ahead on board.
After all, why shouldn't I?
Why shouldn't I?
Yeah. 4/4 and probably.
So the 4/4, and then do you blow up Spelunking or do a shield or gain life?
I think it's life. Shield doesn't really do anything in this matchup.
Right.
Ikawa's way of getting rid of the Titan would most likely be Sunfall.
Or,
and the
or binding.
yeah,
and
the
doesn't
shield
do
counter's
anything
not
against
doing
either.
anything there. The Spelunking, the only reason to get rid of it here is it is protection against your third pick your poison, but otherwise it's really not accomplishing much at this point in the game. So I like gaining the life. We've seen how this matchup can devolve into a I need to deal this much damage in one turn sort of battle.
Right.
And you want to make sure to prevent that.
Okay, we're going to see that Sunfall now for Ikawa. That is a good answer.
It's an exile effect, which is big, because ultimately it does get rid of the Titan for good. You don't have to worry about any sort of Garenbrig growth or Shigeki shenanigans to continue ramming this Titan against you.
And that's the only Titan, right?
That is the only Titan in
Okay.
the 75.
It's gone.
There are 2 copies of Bonnie Paul in the sideboard as well, but that is one that is not brought in this matchup.
I see. Go from Sean. And it looks like Ikawa wants to start beating down once again.
A clock!
It is a 3-3.
A 9-turn clock!
Woohoo!
8 turns left in the game.
Looks like a Chrome Host Seed Shark off the top there for Ikawa.
Okay, that gets
That's the type of card that could get something moving.
it gets around the negate that Sean has available to him.
And Leyline Binding in hand?
Yeah,
That's a 6-6.
that's a 6/6.
Oh, here's another Memory Deluge, though, for Sean.
This one will be going to the graveyard, so Sean can flash this one back.
Yeah, Rest in Peace down.
Ikawa does have Tranquil Throwback in hand, so can use that to exile Sean's graveyard next turn. But, of course, if Sean has 7 open mana, then we just see the Memory Deluge get cast in response.
Is there more action from Sean here?
Non-step.
Still in step.
Shigeki. This is one.
This is channeling.
Channeling Shikage, getting back Pick Your Poison.
This is an answer for the shark.
It is an answer for the shark. It is also Shigeki, basically free with Garenbrig growth, able to get it back here.
First feature with flight, please.
And this is politely asking, I have to say, from Sean there.
Please
I'd like you to
sacrifice a
sacrifice
creature
a creature
with flying. Ikawa saying, I'm going to need a 6/6 incubated Phyrexian in response, and likely go after the Spelunking.
Mainly just wanting the 6/6 here, right?
Yeah, wanting the pressure that this incubate token presents. And then goodbye, shark.
Hey, this is a clock. Now we're talking about 9 damage coming across.
9 is a lot. And 6/6s are not the easiest to explode with ill timing. Definitely doable. There are 7 mana cards in this deck, aplenty, but not the easiest. Sean potentially considering just running out a Virtue here and leaving up Negate. Saying, well, if I untap with a Virtue, I can just try to kill you.
He's reaching for it.
The reach! What am I scared of? I have a Negate. What are you going to do? Sure.
Why not?
Why shouldn't I?
Okay, so on end step, Ikawa is going to wake up the other incubator. That gives him 9 power on board. Ikawa's facing elimination, by the way. I mean, this is game 3 of a best of 5, and Sean won the first 2, so...
It's Dino time. All right, Tranquil Throwback. Pay 3 green if you have it. Which he does. Exile your graveyard, blow up your Virtue, gain 4 life.
Wow!
Nice negate there. Probably not
What?
going to gain the life here, but you know.
What am I afraid of? That was it.
That's it.
That's a huge swing for Ikawa. Oh, boy.
Yeah, Sean checking the order of the printing on Tranquil Throwback. It is, as Ikawa would like, the destroy of the artifact enchantment happens first, then the exile of the graveyard. So goodbye Garenberg Growth, as well as the Virtue of Strength. Whole graveyard gone, damage dealt, and, you know, that was the why shouldn't I if you're in Sean Goddard's seat. The throwback is very nice around getting around Negate.
Not quite lethal on board for Ikawa, but close, just a couple of points short. Whew. So far, the sideboard has been fantastic for Ikawa. The Rest in Peace and the Frillback kind of joining forces to keep that graveyard exiled.
Sean has an option available to him here. He could go Doppelgang for 8 mana, targeting Leyline Binding and the Frillback, getting 2 Leyline Bindings to go after these tokens, and using the Frillback to destroy the Leyline Binding that Ikawa has on the battlefield. That would be a pretty strong turn of the board, I believe. If I've done the math on everything right, let's not, you know.
Yeah.
We're getting into complicated territory now.
This is getting definitely down the road where people have 10, 12 mana available and a lot of options.
The math on Doppelgang is the same as Crackle with Power. 5, 8, 11.
Yes.
The permutations are a lot more complicated.
Yeah, the key is that you need to target other things. You
Yeah.
can't just say, I want to have a million of that one thing and just let it pop off.
Yeah. It's time to rage.
This is rage. Is this just to kill the 6/6?
I think it's going for the 3.
Oh, the 3/3. Okay.
Yeah. Getting back that one land.
Yeah, take what you can get while it's there.
Yep. Still leaving up Negate.
Even with the 1 life gain, still a 2-turn clock here from Ikawa.
Still scary. And of course, that doppelgang line, the weakness of it is leaving you vulnerable to your opponent's negate. Sean knows that Ikawa has access to negates. It's something he has to be aware of. He wasn't in a position where he was desperate enough to have to go for that turn, so he would really like to be able to do so with negate back up. Because if that doppelgang resolves, it's going to be very, very hard for Ikawa to rebuild in the time that it gives Sean.
Right. Double leyline binding, long goodbye. All reactive cards in hand here now for Ikawa, who slams for 9. Sean falls down to 7, but all Ikawa can do is say go.
Yeah.
Another land off the top here for Sean.
All right. Negate mana put aside. Doppelgang for 2, aka 8 mana, still online. We'll have a green to pay as well. Okay. So I think this doppelgang would target a Frillback and a Leyline Binding.
Okay.
Ikawa has some play available to him. He can, in response, long goodbye his Frillback. That negates one of the targets.
It resolves. It's going to be kind of a supercharged one-time ramp spell with the double leyline binding.
12 mana available. You can still doppelgang and leave up negate. Nine mana.
Wow, this deck's incredible.
It's so very, very strong and resilient. If Sean doesn't care about Frillback, he could make redundant copies of Virtue of Strength.
Okay.
They don't do anything, but they do present an issue for Ikawa where removing just one of them does not mean that Sean is out of Virtue.
This has got to be that doppelgang.
Yes, I think he's going to leave one green floating to be able to pay for Frillback if that is what he's targeting. I believe the targets here are going to be Leyline Binding Frillback.
Leaving green floating.
Green floating.
Cast doppelgang X's 2,
two targets.
targeting Frillback Virtue.
He's going to actually go for that redundant virtue that you mentioned, Money.
I think this means that now Ikawa can go Leyline Binding on your Virtue, which gets negated, but he has 2.
And then he can go binding long goodbye?
Yeah, he can go second Binding, hit your Virtue, long goodbye, hit my Frillback, and essentially counters this doppelgang with no value for Sean Goddard.
And the virtue's gone. The only downside for Ikawa is that he's a point short of lethal.
1 point short.
And he just had to kill his own creature.
Yep.
But still, that's a great turnaround for Yoshihiko Ikawa. Somehow dodges the bullet of doppelgang flooding the board.
Look, that is as good as it gets. Sean has 2 blank pieces of cardboard in hand. They gain some life, but they don't gain enough life for him not to die in 2 hits. So Sean needs a top deck.
He had to have 3 things there?
Ikawa has, for the first time in the 3 games of this match, put Sean Goddard on 0 resources and in top deck mode.
And he's also in top deck mode. Let's go.
This is the best chance he gets to take a game right now.
It looks like Sean's actually up to 8 life, so 2 damage short now.
That Spelunking gains 4, but that's still 12. That's 2 hits of 6.
So it's still divisible.
That's an Atraxa,
What did he
I believe.
Oh, it doesn't, Atroxa.
All right. I think you leave up Spara's headquarters. That is white for binding, blue for a negate.
And Sean Goddard just has to look to the side like, that's what you drew? Let's see what he can hit.
Looking for negate, land, binding. I see a negate. I see a land. Oh,
There's
I think
the
it's
negate.
over. I think we're done. I don't think Sean can beat negate here.
Oh, he found it. And the land. He has Spelunking over there, too. Did Atroxa just take Ikawa to a game victory here? It looks like it. What a top deck. I'm out of gas. Could use something.
I am so impressed. You know, I shouldn't be. This is the top 8 of a Pro Tour, but these guys are both just playing such incredibly tight Magic right now. This is really a pleasure to watch.
And, you know, normally in the top 8 of a PT, it's more about efficiency, right, with your cards. It's smaller effects, but you're getting a good price for it type thing. It's not the case for either of these. It's like the game starts at 7 mana for these two.
World Soul's Rage. Say hello to negate.
I guess he can hope
Spelunking, last
that
card.
Ikawa says no Spelunking for you and negates it.
Yeah.
That is not what's going to happen. Ikawa says you got it. Enjoy.
Game 4.
And we're going to head to a game 4. The post-board game goes to Ikawa. And this is really what needed to happen. He was hoping to steal a game, as you mentioned, out of the first 2, was definitely not able to do so. But this sideboard came through for him. He had an early rest in peace that took care of the graveyard for a number of turns after it left. That frillback came down and kind of finished the job.
That frillback was absolutely incredible for Ikawa. It was the perfect card to get around the negate in Sean's hand, and it did so much work to really give Ikawa the extra time he needed to close there.
All right, game number 4 underway. Ikawa trying to make the unlikely comeback here after being down 2-0. It is very rare that somebody's able to rattle off 3 in a row. One of the key ingredients to that is usually that the matchup changes in your favor after the sideboard, which does seem to be the case here. But even then, that is a steep hill to climb.
22.
It is
He can continue that.
a very, very tough matchup that Ikawa got. He really did sort of sail through the Swiss.
What was he, 15-1?
You know,
effectively?
12-1 when he stopped
Right.
playing, and his only loss was to Javier Dominguez in Limited. So Ikawa hasn't actually lost a match of Standard yet this weekend, but part of that was because there was 30% Esper mid-range in the metagame, and Ikawa was just beating them up. I think he was 4-0 in the matchup by the time he got to retire from the Swiss stage and enjoy some rest. He's not getting that luxury in the top 8. He is up against a very tough matchup at Temur Analyst.
He was hoping for not this.
Pretty much anything but, you know.
Right.
Control wouldn't have been great. Would have been fine, actually. Anything but this.
And now he's facing 2 more game wins to get himself into the semis. Ailey talked to him earlier this morning, and he said, this is my 3rd time on the Sunday stage, and I'm ready for the win. He was really just looking for some improvement, right?
Yeah.
Make top 8, get semifinals, get to finals / win.
Well, he was runner-up to Autumn Burchett at Mythic Championship
just
1 in
improve on
Cleveland.
your
Yeah.
personal record?
The only improvement for him now is that trophy. And, you know, he's a regional champion now. He did win the regional championship in Japan. And for him, really being back here is another chance at that trophy that has eluded him.
Not how he wanted to start his Sunday morning, down 2 games. But he's just fought back and got 1. Players are developing their mana bases as they do. Again, that ubiquitous up the beanstalk there for Ikawa. It's just been here every game.
Yeah, Ikawa's hand could stumble in lands if it didn't have those 2 copies of Herd Migration. But as is, he does have access to them and can really just go 1 more turn of a tap land here, and now I have negate Herd Migration. Well, just negate, gone. Just Herd Migration available now.
Wow, negate on Memory Deluge there. Looking to slow Sean down. Deluge, of course, is just a setup card basically for Sean, but it's an important piece.
Yeah, setup is sort of key in this matchup. If Sean sets up too much, then we get to a point like the previous games where the interaction tools from Ikawa are not enough when Sean assembles enough pieces. So ultimately, the adage of you don't use counter spells on draw spells, you save them for the meat rather than, you know, the potatoes, is like, no, in this matchup you kind of have to use them on the draw spells because Sean's deck can set up so many redundant elements that suddenly your interaction isn't enough.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a great point, Monty. And we see that here from Ikawa. Ooh. That's Nissa Ascended Animist. That is a repeated board state.
That was not a
I've
card
ever seen one.
that Ikawa brought in Game 3. We actually have in our sideboard notes that he opted to bring it in for Game 4 here. So not sure if it is a play draw element that he's going for, or rather is it just he thinks that after seeing how Sean sideboarded in the previous game and how the game went, he revised his sideboarding. But it is a very nice tool, being able to answer some of these artifacts and enchantments, as well as create very large creatures that, even when your board gets wiped, can try to remain behind. That can be a big issue for Sean.
I love that here. It'll be a beautiful curve for Ikawa as well if he can play Nissa into a Troxa or into Herd Migration. Goodness sakes, that is a nice hand for Ikawa.
It is a very nice hand. He is almost certainly going to cycle this Herd Migration just to get another basic. As you see, he is out of lands and is building up towards 6 and 7 mana plays. He would like to make sure he is hitting those land drops. So doesn't have the luxury of keeping this Herd Migration in hand, but as things stand, his hand is very good, and Sean's is okay at best. Has Shigeki, has Virtue to get it back, but what he doesn't have is these big ramp elements. He doesn't have an Analyst. He doesn't have a World Soul's Rage to get back multiple of these new Capenna lands and ramp further. So he does feel like right now he's going too slowly as the Temur Analyst deck.
Okay, that was a forest that he grabbed with the Herd Migration. He's going to play it, and there's the Frillback.
I think this is just get rid of your graveyard. Bye-bye. Sean can channel Shigeki and get back that Memory Deluge if he's desperate, but he will lose the Shigeki instead, and
choose, huh?
that is a one-of, I believe, in this deck.
Interesting.
So the question for Sean is, do I need setup?
And the answer is absolutely.
Fine by me.
Ikawa's going to be quite happy that he used that negate there, given how important Memory Deluge is now. And what was that? An up the beanstalk?
Yep, number 2.
And there's a 3/3 Frillback on the battlefield as well, so things moving forward here for Ikawa.
And second negate drawn. So
Oh, that's going to be interesting.
Sean found a negate of his own, so now both players have access to a counter spell. But Ikawa has the trump card. He has his Atraxa to be able to get around Sean's negate. Sean doesn't have that yet. Doesn't have the Titan of Industry. What Sean does have is a doppelgang, so if Ikawa Atraxas, Sean can Atraxa.
Ikawa would need an untapped land here.
That is a Jetmir's Garden, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right. That might be a blessing for Ikawa. No temptation to play Troxa here.
Yeah, and I don't believe Ikawa will want to run Nissa into open mana as well.
And not have negate backup.
Yeah, so I think we may actually just see Garden pass from Ikawa here.
And lean on that leyline binding a little bit.
Leyline Binding plus negate, the thing is, in a pinch, Ikawa can ultimately just play this Leyline Binding and draw 2 cards if he really needs to. So if Sean presents something that is a big issue, Ikawa can say, the hand I currently have isn't good enough, I need more tools to combat this, and go digging. Of course, we're not there yet, but... Oh, wow.
Whoa, it does look like he's actually going to go for it. Perhaps part of the thinking being that if this does get negated, it means Memory Deluge is on hold for a turn cycle as well. But that's a very subtlety here. This is interesting.
That's a great call out. Just turning off Memory Deluge is really big because Sean prioritized that over the Shigeki. Sean prioritized getting that Deluge back, saying that I need to set up further. So the fact that by presenting this Nissa and taking this negate out, Ikawa is turning off this Memory Deluge, that is absolutely massive from his point of view.
So he gets to kind of have both. And of course, if Sean doesn't have a negate there, well, then you have a Nissa.
Right. And because he drew 2 cards off of the Nissa, he actually hit an untapped land. So he's not even putting the shields down for his negate. He's able to still present that as well. So really nice play coming out from Ikawa, saying that I understand that you can have a counterspell, that you can have resources, but I'm willing to make this trade of resources because of what it costs you.
This has been a really good game. They all have so far.
I feel like we are watching a masterful display of magic coming out from both players, and it is just delightful to watch their understanding of their matchup and their decks and what their win conditions are, what resources they are supposed to pressure and tax, and how they can really execute their game plan through the opponent's disruptions.
Sean passes the turn back to Ikawa. Ikawa has a lot going on here. Those up to beanstalks are really doing damage this time.
Yep. And
these extra cards have been huge.
Ikawa found a Topiary Stomper, so can add to the board while holding up Negate, while holding up Leyline Binding. And this means that the pressure is mounting, and Sean will have to do something about it. And the mana is ramping.
4 pounds. Thank you.
4 cards, and there is a lot of heat in that hand. Virtue, Deluge, Doppelgang, Ill-Timed Explosion for Goddard. But Ikawa could go Dinosaur Beatdown plan.
Dino Beatdown.
Not exactly plan A, but for domain ramp, but it counts.
It is a plan.
7 power.
It is a plan.
I mean, if you can protect 7 power coming across multiple times, it's usually a good way to do it. Interesting to note that we haven't seen either Rest in Peace from Ikawa this game. The Frillback doing a little impression, but...
Exiled part of the graveyard. It did quite a bit of damage there.
So now is Ikawa still going to fight over this Deluge? And the answer is yes.
I love it. It's pretty great.
And that works. So Sean Goddard, not a lot of forward momentum that last turn, just a land drop. And an attempted Memory Deluge, which failed. I'm really curious about this Leyline Binding in hand for Ikawa.
All right, Sean, here's what you do. You go Doppelgang, X equals 2, hit both of Ikawa's up the beanstalks, draw 4 cards, rebuild. That's your memory deluge.
There you go. It costs 8.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, up the beanstalk's really good in Sean's list as well.
Yeah.
Like he gets a bunch of extra
Let's get
cards.
spicy. Let's just, let's get bold. Let's get dangerous.
Wow, that would be.
Realistically, ill-timed explosion, clear off this board, play land, pass. But let's get spicy. Let's get dangerous.
I liked your plan, Bonnie. I really did. And it is going to be 7 total, so that's easily enough to clear off the way.
20?
Graveyard's getting pretty big here
21? Okay. 21,
for
okay.
Goddard.
Maybe,
This
yeah.
would be a really nice
21,
time for a
22,
rest in
okay.
peace.
Would be a very nice time for a rest in peace. We haven't gotten a good look at what Goddard drew off of that explosion. It was an analyst, so really nice time for a rest in peace right about now. And look, Atraxa gives you a really good shot at finding one.
That's
10
right.
cards is no joke.
And there's mana available.
And no negate for Goddard.
Huh. 2 cards left for Sean.
And this Atraxa could be game ending.
That was the land off the top of the library there for Ikawa. And he's going to play Atraxa. Let's see what he finds off of it. Double trigger. So he gets to look at 12 cards to try to find a
He found
rest in
one.
peace. He already found it?
Found it. It was one of the draws. Rest in peace, procured. The question is, is he going
Wow.
to play around a negate, or he'd leave up his own negate?
Because now he found that as well, didn't he?
And those are 4 unique types there in the 4 non-land cards found. So the picks there are easy.
So
One
he's
basic,
getting
one
5,
joining them.
and it's just a choice of what land he'd like.
All right, 7 mana, draw 7, 7/7, lifelink, vigilance, flying, death touch. It's fine. Okay card. Could be better.
Wow.
Could have haste.
Wow, wow, wow.
Add more text.
He's got 9 cards in hand and has already played a land as well. I don't think it matters at this point. But I am really curious to see if he plays the rest in peace or if he feels that the negate will be enough to maintain his board presence enough for the turn cycle where he can then play it out and protect it if he doesn't have to use it.
He has negate plus leyline binding up right now. So it does look like Ikawa is just going to go to the discard step, cleanup step.
He does.
Yep. 22.
Ooh, another one in the graveyard. Thank you.
Another one in the yard, and Analyst in hand means that Sean is able to ramp quite a bit here, but nothing to do with it yet.
Really interesting as well. Sean does not know about the rest in peace. That was hit by one of the up the beanstalk triggers, not off of Atraxa.
I think Sean could go at Analyst pass here, leaving up both the Deluge flashback as well as the Analyst activation.
Now, he can only do one, right?
He can only do one of them, but both are represented.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 2 more lands there. Kawa goes to his draw step.
That's a
Finds
Seed
the Chrome
Shark.
Host Seed Shark off the top of the library.
Marshall, I think we're getting very close to a game 5.
Yeah, 29.
Ikawa facing down 2 games to 0 here in his quarterfinal after absolutely cruising through the Swiss. And is just a few steps away, perhaps, from a deciding game 5. There's the Chrome Host Sea Shark.
Uncounterable. The old Phyrexian shark.
Yeah. That hits the intersection between Atraxa and the shark.
I don't know about you. There's something very satisfying about finding these niche
Oh, yeah.
creature type overlaps that let you get
Oh, I feel so clever.
real cavern value. Oh,
When you play it and they're like, well, why would you? And hell, you'll find out. Just wait, just wait. Here's Rest in Peace, and that is going to prompt the Aftermath Analyst activation.
3 in play, 4 life gained, 4 lands being up to 4 lands being fetched here. I believe there are 3 basics left in the deck, so should only be 3 fetched. And Sean doing that math as well.
There they are.
And that's it. Yeah, just confirming the lands have gotten the proper basics. Ikawa says, good.
So Sean's done the thing where he gets all of his lands onto the battlefield, not having to worry about the Rest in Peace.
Yep.
That damage is done, as it were. But what does he do with all this mana?
Currently nothing. There's a doppelgang that we know will get met with a negate when he goes for it. He can doppelgang for a whole lot because he can go Virtue, 27 mana, and then they, you know, what?
Are there enough
6
targets?
Atraxas, a whole bunch of up the beanstalks. Has to be careful not to deck himself. Pick your poison. No real text here. Can get rid of one of the flyers. And we know the doppelgang will get countered.
Right.
And we know the game will likely end after that. Ikawa has 9 damage on the board, 2 Leyline Bindings in hand that he doesn't need targets for. He can just play them to make 6/6s and close out the game.
And he does have enough mana to even wake them up and have all his mana on his turn too. So lots of flexibility here for Ikawa.
I do think at this point, the game is pretty much a lock with the information we have for Ikawa. It is just going to take probably another few minutes for the players to advance the board state and play the cards to get us there. But I think ultimately what will happen is Sean is going to play a Virtue of Strength, go for a big doppelgang. Ikawa will negate it, play 1 to 2 Leyline Bindings, awaken some Phyrexian Incubate tokens, and close out the game.
And so interestingly now, we saw Ikawa fighting over card draw Memory Deluge, but now he can shift his focus to the payoffs.
Right.
Have all the mana you want, and I can laser focus this negate.
Well, that's what he's thinking about right now. We, of course, have the information that Sean can have all the mana he wants. Ikawa is doing a mental check of the deck. You can have all the mana. Would you do anything with it? Ultimately says, nah, I don't think so. I'm good. Still math being done.
Creature flying.
On the attack.
On the stack.
Yep. 1 Leyline Binding, please, targeting your Virtue. Creating a 6/6 Incubate.
Which is actually the important part here.
Yes. The Virtue, the damage is done, and there won't be another turn. It's...
Yeah, this is plenty enough for lethal with both bindings. He can just get rid of the Seed Shark.
yeah, and I think Ikawa will go for the second binding as well.
Reserve.
Yeah.
Finding results. Trigger targeting this.
Me targeting this.
Float a bunch of mana.
Float it all. Float it all. What else are you
Definitely
going to
float
do?
it all.
5. Float it all.
That is happening.
One step at a time. You know.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot from Sean's perspective. He doesn't know about the negate. And this doppelgang could lead to him drawing a bunch of extra cards that he may need to spend that mana on or want to save lands on tap for. Potentially, there's a lot of permutations here. All of it is a bit of house of cards because once doppelgang goes on the stack and gets negated, it doesn't matter. But
Right. Again, he doesn't know
he
that.
doesn't know that.
And all jokes aside, Sean is playing the proper way. He's floating enough mana where
Absolutely.
after this stack resolves, if it resolves, he can go another Virtue with this mana that he's floated and then play Doppelgang and have some lands up. Because if you're targeting Atraxa, for example, and finding a whole bunch of cards, maybe you'll find a negate you want to leave up.
Exactly.
So this is the proper way. It's only with the information that we have that we know that none of this matters.
Oh, he actually got rid of the Atraxa. And now we're going to see some fireworks here from Sean because he's going to go for the doppelgang and it's going to get negated. So is it still enough for lethal with the binding plus the negate? 6, 12,
It isn't.
12, that's 18. It's one
Yeah.
short.
Yeah. So
Awkward.
And the end of the turn.
Sean passed. by
Oh,
the
Sean
way.
just decided to pass the turn.
Yeah. So this is going to be another binding.
This is draw 2, make a 6/6, basically.
Yep. And the Virtue will be gone. And one thing to note, in this game, Ikawa boarded out the Umade's Recruiter.
Oh, okay.
So the big haste element that we've seen be relevant in previous games here, not there anymore. So this is, and previous games, all the copies of Archangel of Wrath have come out as well.
Right.
So there's no real reach here anymore. There's no burn you to the face. The game is almost certainly not ending this turn, even if it is in a board state that is more or less deterministically over. It is not actually over.
Yeah, and you're going to see why Atraxa was sacrificed here as well. Keeping that Sea Shark's nice, but also the second Atraxa in hand. How is Sean supposed to combat this?
While I see Ikawa's point of view for sacrificing the Atraxa, ultimately, I think I would have been pretty heavily interested in just presenting lethal here and sacrificing the Seed Shark instead, keeping the Atraxa. But I very much see the reasons for why he played it the way he did.
And we have entered the counting stage of the game. You can see Sean with just a sorcery in hand over there. He's along for the ride at this point.
Yeah, he may not be presenting that to Ikawa. He is, you know, thinking a little in response to a play, saying, okay, whatever, yeah, sure, resolves. But we know that he is, quote-unquote, F6'd.
That's right. He's going to, Ikawa's going to wake up his 2 incubators that were left over.
That's 16.
Attack for 16 damage. Down to 3 goes Sean.
Pass the turn.
Ikawa has literally 7 cards in hand. And he passes the turn back.
Spelunking won't do it. We'll draw a card. Gain
Sure.
some life. Not the relevant part.
Ikawa doesn't care.
Needs a negate. Finds Titan. Titan isn't quite enough.
Does it buy him a little more time? Not that that's really what he wants at this point. They're kind of...
So he is at 7 now. Could go for Titan, kill one of these 6/6s, make a blocker. We know that the blocker can go. He can also doppelgang the Titan. Again, we know the counter is there to that. But he could go Titan, blow up one of these leyline bindings, get a Virtue back, try to doppelgang the Titan for a million. Again, it won't work. But that is, I think, the line available to him, is playing as if Ikawa doesn't have a negate here. So make a Rhino, blow up a Leyline Binding, and then... Oh, wow, no. Going to gain life.
So Sean attempting to prolong this game as long as he can.
Sorry, and the Spelunking didn't gain any life, of course. No cave put onto the battlefield. But not the biggest important detail here.
Let's see if we're just going to see as far as headquarters cycled here.
Roofing's Tower.
Oh, sorry, you're right.
You picked the wrong one.
I guessed wrong.
Unforgivable.
Ooh, long goodbye.
Yeah, I have it. I have own.
That's going to kill the 4/4 and create a 2/2 incubator.
We have ran out of incubate tokens. Ikawa has to provide his own.
This is lethal, finally.
This is. That will do the job. Ikawa knows it.
Wow.
And
What a
Sean
game
knows it.
for Ikawa. There's a block, but it's plenty enough to get through. And this is game 5 incoming between Sean Goddard and Yoshihiko Ikawa. Sean out of the gates quickly with 2 wins, but the last 2 out of the sideboard games have not gone his way. Particularly that one was convincing victory for Ikawa. You know, we called that one 3 turns ago.
Yep. I think as long as that negate was in Ikawa's hand and Sean's draws weren't overtaxing it by presenting a second target, it was going to be deterministic, and that is what ended up happening. The Titan was a nice road bump from Sean's point of view, but wasn't enough to get the job done there. And I think right now we have reached the ultimate culmination of this match, which is, can Ikawa's post-sideboard plan that has been so good in the previous 2 games push him across the finish line here? And with Sean mulliganing to 6 on the play, down on resources, and Ikawa having a really nice hand, no rest in peace, but everything else is there. This could get scary for Sean Goddard in the, you know, not dream matchup, but very, very positive matchup for him.
That's going to be emotionally difficult, I would say. You know, being up 2-0 in a good matchup. Yeah, sure, they're post-sideboard games, but watching it fall away from you, if Ikawa is able to get the job done, that would be very tough for Sean.
You know, you have to love the mental resilience of Ikawa coming in here with a bad matchup after having the best performance after the Swiss, starting off 0-2 as predicted, and the whole time in the first 2 games, laughing, having a good time, understanding that he was going to lose, and then these post-board games, he's still laughing, but you know he's in serious mode now because these are the ones he has to get, and he has been just doing an incredible job.
Yeah, both of our players really putting on a show for us here in our opening quarterfinal. If you're just joining us, that's right. We're just getting started for Top 8 Sunday here in Seattle. This is our first quarter. And it has been one for the ages. If you like big, expensive, splashy spells, you have come to the right place. These players have both resolved multiple 7+ mana spells per game, every game. Okay.
All right, great. This is the line.
This is exactly what Sean needed. No disruption for the yard so that he could use this World Souls Rage to get back these 2 lands and unmulligan, get back on the road again.
Yep. This is undoing a lot of the damage that this mulligan caused, and what was a slow start from Sean is now ramping up.
Sean had the green light here. It was like white mana, not white mana, tap it, play an enchantment, hold your breath. Okay, it's just up the beanstalk, and then no blue mana available. So Sean knew he had the green light here. And now he made a good step forward with his mana base to help get his game plan online. As you see, Ikawa use Herd Migration to go grab an island on end step.
Yeah, Ikawa would love a rest in peace off the top here. I think that was negate.
Oof.
Negate a little awkward in this spot, considering you really don't want to run into an Aftermath Analyst. It's Sean's turn. So I think if you're in Ikawa's seat, I'd like to see the throwback this turn. Just reset that graveyard, make it so an Analyst isn't immediately ramping for at minimum 2 with a number of lands in this deck, most likely quite a bit more. And then that'll allow you to set up for the next turn and at least know that Sean is a little slowed down.
Sean tidying up for us. He's tapped out.
Having a good time.
Nothing else to do anyway.
Chilling. Island.
Oh, and it's going to be Chrome Host Seed Shark here. Is he trying to take a more proactive route here? He's got a Leyline Binding in hand.
Yeah, I think he's saying that I am going to get on the board and present a threat. Sean finds another one of those new Capetta lands, so this Aftermath Analyst now is, at minimum, ramping 3 more lands. Could be up to 6 more, and 6 would be a very tall order for Ikawa to come back from, assuming this Memory Deluge hits basically anything in Sean's seat.
Ikawa looked like he basically gave up the fight as far as getting mana in.
All right, Ikawa says, trigger on the
Trigger
stack.
on the stack.
This on the stack.
Yeah. Comes play and on the stack. Okay.
So it does come into play, but there's a trigger on the stack. So if Sean wants to use it, he's got to do it now.
Yeah, making sure that the most you're getting is 3, which I think is a great call from Ikawa's position.
Yeah, if you... he's got to limit it on some level.
Yeah.
There is still a mill 3 coming after this.
Yeah, of course, whatever we see milled now is not the mill that would have been. So we can't say, oh, it would have been 6 or it would have just been 3. But
Right. It would have been the normal, on average, whatever, 1.75 or something
Right.
that it is. Yeah. But Ikawa knows now that it is definitely 3.
yeah, and Sean's hand does not have an Analyst in it anymore. It is just a Forest and Deluge. So with the negate in Ikawa's hand, he is able to
after this,
threaten that Deluge because of this ramp.
Yes. Middle.
For a turn, at least. Oh! Oof.
He would have hit 1, but more importantly, 2
Two
negates
negates gone.
in the yard.
That is an incredible mill if you are in Ikawa's seat. That is more or less exactly what you wanted to see.
Wow.
And
and he found Rest in Peace, too.
oh my goodness. Playing Rest in Peace here, leaving up the 6/6 with a negate, and just saying go, attack for 2, go. I think this is, oh, that was a fantastic draw for Ikawa.
What a sequence here for
Oh, my
Yoshihiko
goodness.
Ikawa. And there it is, the Rest in Peace, and all Sean can do is slow nod. Bye-bye graveyards.
Do not put that Rest in Peace in the yard, Ikawa. You're going to need that one.
Not just yet.
26. Yeah.
26 to 21 are the life
So
totals.
is he in counter memory deluge, or
Absolutely.
wait until they counter whatever they find?
No. Once you have this Rest in Peace on the battlefield and Sean can't flash back anymore, counter Deluge.
Counter deluge.
Do not transform on the end step. You see exactly why. You are not allowing Sean Goddard to have a Memory Deluge with this many lands on the battlefield.
That's right, and this is very much a face-up negate at this point.
More or less, yeah. All right, flip the 6.
Either Ikawa's
Go time.
doing a really good job of representing it, or he has it, is what Sean's going to be thinking here.
Oh, and
This
going
is
for all of
beatdown.
it. This is 10. This is a 3-turn clock. Wow.
10 damage coming across here for Yoshihiko Ikawa. He was down 2 games to 0, and here in Game 5, he is firmly in the driver's
Make
seat.
him have it.
There's the Memory Deluge,
I'm tapped
and
out.
there's the negate, and another 2-2 coming. Still not enough quite for lethal.
All right, Kyle missed
Oh,
the
he missed
2-2
the trigger because he said go
But-
afterwards. Well,
Yeah.
doesn't change the clock currently.
Yeah, what did Sean draw?
Deep breath. Yeah.
Forest and Doppelgang.
Doppelgang.
Oh, 11 is currently what's on board. Okay, so Doppelgang for 11. You can get 3 Seed Sharks and 3 Leyline Bindings, hitting both tokens and the rest of them.
Oh, what a rip for Sean Goddard.
My goodness.
And look at Ikawa, he's distraught.
Hold on,
This is a
folks.
huge swing back in the other direction off of an 11-mana doppelgang.
And target a land, I guess. Yeah, get 3 more islands. Oh, boy. Alrighty. Woo!
We got a game again.
Game continues.
Oh, boy.
Oh, Ikawa
The top of
grimacing.
Sean's library is going to be very interesting because he's going to have 3 Chromos Seed Sharks on the battlefield.
All right, so
Any non-creatures.
we're gonna need more copies, please. All right.
Do we have any way to mark these as what they are?
You have to make some labels for us. So Leyline Binding, Chrome House, Seed Shark.
The voice of
And
Fire
Island?
Shoes there, dictating what we're going to need here.
Yep.
The Leyline Binding triggers are going to go.
And it was Island.
It was Island, I believe. It should be both Phyrexians, or maybe the 6/6 Phyrexian, the Seed Shark, and the Rest in Peace. Yeah,
So they just leave you with a 2/2.
1/2/2. Okay.
Which is doing absolutely nothing.
Yep.
That was incredible.
Now, notably, I do believe the Doppelgang
Copy tokens
is
also
exiled
might be helpful
because
separately.
it will have fully resolved
Yeah.
and gone to exile when the Leyline Binding triggers go on the stack to exile this Rest in Peace.
And
So-
Sean puts it right in the exile pile, so he agrees with you, Monty.
No recurring Doppelgang, but you know what? I think that's not the point of concern here if you're in Ikawa's seat.
Yeah.
So there's those 2 copy tokens in the middle. One of them represents 3 Chromos Sea Sharks and the other 3 islands.
I believe so.
And then the one over to the side.
That's 3 Leyline Bindings
Are
that
the-
have a token, a Seed Shark, and a Rest in Peace under
Right.
them.
So token's just gone.
Token's gone.
Yeah, 1 doppelganger.
Because this is relevant, Nissa Ascended Animist is in hand here for Yoshihiko Ikawa, as well as a Troxa and a Tranquil Frillback. So those bindings may not stick around.
Yeah, the Seed Sharks are the bigger issue.
Mm-hmm.
Now, notably, Ikawa does have Sunfall, some number of copies still in the deck.
Oh.
He boarded 1 out, but I believe there are 2 in the deck still. So could draw a Sunfall. That would reset the pressure that Sean has available to him.
So is best draw here for Ikawa just an untapped land into a Troxa?
I think it is the most impactful draw.
Okay. Nissa's castable regardless.
Correct. Just more loyalty would be nice.
Wow, what a swing. And look at all our labels coming
Islands on
in.
the way.
All right, here we are.
Shark, shark, shark.
Many copy
And then
tokens.
we have some additional copies here.
All right,
yeah,
those are all bindings.
And we can just shortcut that part.
We got some more copy tokens.
But I mean, imagine if Sean finds,
You know, we have an
I don't know, name it, anything.
Island.
Did we get an island? Oh, we did.
Yeah.
Tokens I needed. I didn't say labels for every card in.
All right.
That's 3 islands.
Yeah, this is the scary part. Is Sean's deck is full of spells that cost a lot of mana and make massive Phyrexian tokens.
Topiary Stomper was draw step there for Ikawa.
I think you have to cast it because you need to get that 7th land.
Right. Try to set up for next turn.
But yeah, I think
And does Frillback do anything here?
no. I think
Does nothing.
not at the moment. You'd like to use it to remove a
This
leyline
could be
binding.
huge for Sean if he can find something expensive off the top of the library. There's so many cards in there
This is still 21.
that could give him 3 7/7s off of this.
Sean drew the best card in his deck the previous turn. Okay, that's a Virtue of Strength. That
That counts.
counts. Virtue of Strength is a pretty big card here.
3 7/7s it is. Just what I ordered.
And Ikawa, knowing that this game just fell away the moment that Doppelgang was drawn. He was in an incredibly favored position, but the one of Doppelgang out of the sideboard.
Unbelievable.
Huge for Sean Goddard. Up the first 2 games, and then just seeing the match that is so favored slipping away from him to what is essentially a lock board state, and then the saving grace.
Incredible. What an emotional roller coaster for both of our players.
Combat.
Yep.
6.
Down to 15.
Extra annoying for Ikawa that these are incubator tokens, so a card like Sunfall would not solve the problem.
Yep. Don't want that one. All right, Atraxa time.
This is going to be in Atraxa we trust, because Atraxa does hold off an incredible amount of attacking / damage.
And Cavern says that at least after you get this Atraxa on the battlefield, if you hit a Leyline Binding, you can cast that. You have enough blockers to live through these Phyrexians, but Sean has approximately 1 million mana right now with that Virtue of Strength on the battlefield, plus
Is that the Sunfall down there?
Long Goodbye found, but no Leyline Binding.
Wow, this has just been an incredible match.
Ikawa shaking his head. Ikawa needs a fade this turn.
Definitely. This has to be a land or a minimal impact spell.
Yeah, and the worst case scenario for Ikawa is a World Souls Rage. That's going to the face. That's going to end the match.
That would be game.
But Ikawa needs to fade every draw spell, more or less.
Yes.
Ikawa needs to fade every burn spell.
Yes.
Ikawa needs to fade, probably needs to fade Negate, realistically.
Right.
And probably needs to fade Titan of Industry.
So you can draw lands or spelunking?
Aftermath Analyst would be fine. I think you can draw that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Analyst. Spelunking into nothing.
Yeah.
Kawa's just thinking land. Just please, just draw a land.
And it's a bigger ask than you think because of how many lands Sean has fetched out of his deck already. Yes, the deck plays a lot of lands. The deck plays 30 lands. Literally half of it is lands. But so many of them are in play or in exile.
That's
Yeah,
right.
7. Yeah, this 7.
And now Sean also has to, okay,
Big draw step.
let's see what he finds here off the top. Is it something explosive, or is Ikawa going to live to fight another turn? We don't know yet. We get the full sweat here, Monty.
That doesn't look like a man who has hit the game-ending World Souls Rage.
Agreed. It could be anything below that still, though.
He knows there's no negate. There's no slow rolling here. It is, you can't really attack with the sharks. So the line is,
Wake up some tokens.
wake up some tokens, send them on in. But he knows about a Sunfall.
That's
so
what I was
he
going
can't
to
really
say.
do that either.
If you do that and it doesn't
It's a
kill
land.
them, it was a land off the top of the library.
All right.
So now Sean has to really decide how to manage these 7/7s, because now his game plan is to keep this going, right?
Yep.
Because again, just getting to untap to another draw step could easily give him the resources needed to win the game.
Yeah. He goes like, please stop.
Don't tap mana, don't do that. It's really just going to be to start waking up incubator tokens. Akawa
says,
he says, okay,
"Please."
you got me, it's
Yeah.
over.
Yeah, no,
It's fine.
please flip them. Flip
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah.
Please.
6 mana? Oh, that goes nicely into the mana you need to transform these.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just torturous for Ikawa here. That's very good news for him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that
He
is.
says, all right, we're back in business.
That is the game action I would like you to take. Okay.
So
Another
how
one.
many of these does he wake up?
I think the answer is 1 or 2, and never 3. I think 1 is the most likely answer.
He
really.
has to leave himself with something post-Sunfall.
Yes.
Combat.
Yeah.
I mean, also the Sunfall token's going to be huge.
Chump. It is.
Okay, 2-2
All
down.
right. Land. Probably the... the 4.
Land
Not the
go.
outlook.
Ikawa gets another
Overlook.
crack at it. And he gets all of his mana after that Atraxa hit.
Another Sunfall is redundant. No good. But does get to attack.
So, when? Does he have to just do the Sunfall now to get the Sharks off the battlefield?
No.
Yeah.
I don't think he does. I think he could go for Nissa here
Yeah?
and blow up the Virtue, potentially. He could go Frillback, blow up the Virtue. I think he needs to get the Virtue off the board so he doesn't just die to World Soul's Rage.
Okay.
I think that would be... That is step 1.
Yes.
Yeah. I like this a lot. You can leave up Long Goodbye. That leaves you pretty safe against these Incubates.
Okay. You're also the one with Atraxa.
Can even play an Up the Beanstalk here. I like that as well. I don't believe he has a second Frillback in hand. I think that is... Oh, no, he does. Okay, I did see a second Frillback. That is good. Was that a binding? No. Okay, Herd Migration. All right.
All right,
Okay, all
all
right.
right,
Less
right.
good, less good, less exciting.
So now what?
Sean needs to draw gas.
He just needs to find action.
What
He
is
still
it?
has 2 Chrome Host Seed Sharks.
What is it? Analyst is not gas. That is on the list of cards that he is allowed to find if you're in Ikawa's seat.
That's right. We made a very short list of lands, Analyst, maybe Spelunking, and he actually has gone back to back.
He's got Land Analyst. This, to come back from this, if you're in Ikawa's seat, would be legendary.
How do you... Yeah, to come back in the match and then have to come back in this game as well.
Yeah, double block this, get rid of it. Force Sean to have to flip another one. You Long Goodbye that one. Marshall,
This is incredible.
this might be the best match we've cast this weekend. This might be the best match we've cast, in the last year.
This has been amazing.
This
This
is
is the
awesome.
first match of our top 8.
We are in the quarterfinals. We have so much more standard to go today.
I will say whoever does win this game and this match is going to have to take like a power nap or go grab a sandwich or something.
What do you
because
need?
You're going to be exhausted after this one.
Trade.
Okay, there's the trade-off.
All right.
Atrax is still alive. Sharks in the air for Sean Goddard.
Okay. What Sean really needs is this Analyst to mill a Memory Deluge.
Okay.
That would be big. That would be this Analyst drawing relevant cards.
Main play Outlook.
Thinning?
Thinning.
Gaining some life?
17. My goodness.
Was that the last basic? Did you say 13?
16.
16? I don't know how many have been exiled, if any.
I don't believe any, so I count 13 in play right now, plus 3 island copies.
Right.
Not to be confused with the basics in Sean's deck.
Right.
All right.
Okay, here's the Analyst. Let's see what it hits.
Praying for a deluge. Oh. Going to kill a shark in response because of deluge.
Okay.
Island,
Nope,
land, land.
3 lands?
Okay, in terms of worst case scenarios, that's not bad because it mills. Milling 3 action spells that are not deluge would have been bad.
Right.
Milling 3 lands, you know what? In this spot, we're okay with it.
First things first, Atrax is going to hit again. This time it's going to get through. Down to 10 goes Goddard and 29 for Ikawa. Life total cushion looking very nice now for Yoshihiko.
I think I would like to get my rest in peace back if I am Ikawa. I think I would like to go thrill back,
Thrilled?
get rid of the lane line binding that has my rest in peace. But what if instead you just present a board, find a negate, find one negate.
And Sean Goddard's going to respond. So this is just herd migration going onto the stack.
Yep.
Yeah. 3 games.
3 life gained. That should get the last 2 basics out of the deck because an island was milled. 1 and oh, look at those deluges on the bottom. Oof, just double checking everything. There's a lot of gas and very few dead cards in this deck, Marshall.
No kidding. All these lands being taken out, plus the mills from earlier. Even cards like Negate were getting milled. There's a card off the top. You're saying that Ikawa wants Negate more than anything at this point?
More than anything in the world, Ikawa wants that negate.
Well, he found a forest.
Okay, well, more than anything in the world, Ikawa didn't want that forest.
So shields down.
That we know of. Of course, Sean does not.
Right.
Every basic, gone.
Sean doesn't feel like he has the luxury of
19 lands in
playing
play.
around much at this point. It's going to be Spelunking, go. Shields actually down now.
Yeah. And
What can Goddard find off the top of his library? It's been very unkind to him after that doppelgang.
okay, he's doing math.
Are you mathing?
Says go.
No, he just passes the turn back over to Ikawa again.
I think anything with text would have been cast there.
Wow, Goddard's deck has just abandoned him.
All right.
It's with the 3 Chrome Host Sea Sharks, he just needed anything.
Okay, so Ikawa can go Nissa Overrun here, I believe.
Oh, that's true. Oh, it was negate off the top
Okay.
of the library, though, for Goddard, so that is going to stop the Nissa.
Okay.
Yeah, the Nissa
Still draws a
ultimate.
card. Negate.
Wow,
Spelunking number 2.
that
All right,
negate hit the battlefield real hard there from Goddard.
Attack.
So just Atraxa once again. You're right, though. Ikawa was going for the win.
Yeah.
That was going to be full price Nissa -7 overrun you, but it's not the way that it panned out because Sean found
No more
the
sharks.
gate.
Throwback time.
And this is going to be,
Give me my rest in peace.
so you get the graveyard anyway, but you get the long-term effects of it as well.
Yeah, give me the rest in peace. Give me some life. Go. Don't find ill-timed explosion. Don't find World Soul's Rage. Which doesn't even do
Which
that
Rage
much
is
anymore.
not lethal,
It can't
right?
kill you. It just takes out your Atraxa, which is your primary clock here.
Yeah, I wonder what Goddard's even going for at this point. He's out of sharks. Yes, he has some big ones on the ground, but
Okay. Flying creature gone.
yeah, so that was pick your poison. It does solve the Atraxa problem, so 2 answers in a row now from Goddard.
All right, I think if you're Ikawa, you attack with everything.
You just send in the squad.
You send in the squad because you say that Goddard has to activate these incubators to block. And that
Oh.
lets you Sunfall, draw a card off up the beanstalk, you get a bunch of damage through, and then you're left with an empty board where you have the incubator token that can't get ill-time explosion.
And then if you're really lucky, you hit that negate.
If you're really lucky, you hit that negate off of the Spelunking.
Or
That looked like a
The
Proving
Sunfall.
Grounds. Long goodbye. Okay.
long goodbye's interesting.
Hold on now.
Wait, does that make lethal?
No, because two
Still two
blockers would
3,
still
6,
push
9,
damage through.
12. Oh.
Okay, everyone in.
These aren't flipped yet.
Yeah? Oh,
I haven't transformed them yet.
sorry.
Yeah, I will give you a chance to do that.
Sean reminds him, these are not creatures yet, but I will, in fact, open that door for you.
There is also 3 of them.
And after this, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, so Ikawa getting a little ahead of himself here. This
Right,
isn't lethal.
that is not lethal. It's 3, 6, 9, 12 down to 1.
12 damage.
They're down to 1.
But knocking at the door,
The thing is, I don't know about an individual card that gets Goddard back into this, but I think you should Sunfall if you're Ikawa.
Right, that's the question.
36, 7.
does he Sunfall post-combat
I
here?
think you have to.
No, he's going to pass the turn back.
Ill-timed explosion. Memory Deluge.
Oh, there's Memory Deluge now for Sean Goddard. Can he find an ill-timed explosion?
Okay.
That could keep him alive.
Spars headquarters, not a negate. That was a Proving Grounds, I think. 2, 3, 4. Another Deluge. Plus,
Got enough mana to
was
chain.
that an explosion?
to find out very shortly here.
It was a Virtue and a Deluge.
Okay.
That's a lot of mana.
Sean
That's a
Goddard's
lot
at
of
1
mana.
life right now.
All right, Virtue time. Or is he just going for the explosion, for the Deluge again?
He is just going to go for the memory deluge
is
again.
the Virtue for an explosion. That's what he's saving it for. Ikawa could have played around this by casting Sunfall. There's the explosion.
He actually found the ill-timed explosion. 2 memory deluges it took to find it, but he got there.
Ooh, this is a really tight game now, Marshall. These Deluges are exiled. He won't be able to do it again next turn, but this... Oh.
So Ikawa is now going to lose his board.
And I think he has to discard this Nissa here just to keep this 7/7 while wiping the board. You don't want to discard your Virtue.
And that's what's going to happen. So no board state now for Ikawa.
Boy.
He's playing with fire.
Virtue lands in hand for Sean. May as well play the Virtue. It's not going to regrow anything. If you play the Virtue, attack for 7.
He's back up to 2.
If Ikawa can't clear it, playing Virtue and drawing World Soul's Rage would win the game here.
Oh my goodness.
Because
so he attacks for 7, and then on his turn...
down to 29, and then you would have Virtue. Your normal 16 lands plus 3 more is 19. So that takes the math from 27 mana to 36, I believe. No.
And it's 29
No, it's
life.
even much more than that.
Right.
Oh, wow. Okay, so...
Okay, so now what? Cycle Zeotor's Proving Grounds here.
The Beanstalk.
It's enough the Beanstalk.
Ikawa
Gets to see a lot of
needs
cards.
He found a negate.
Oh, and he found the gate.
Oh.
Yoshihiko Ikawa comes back
Bird
again.
migration, leave up negate.
That has to be enough. Has he finally pushed through to take this match? It's felt like he was going to win it 2 different times.
Draw 2 cards. And Sean once again in top deck mode.
He is
But
facing
we know
down.
Ikawa has that negate.
5 lethal threats now. Is there anything for Sean?
I believe.
He has to get through a negate, and he has 1 draw
I believe he still has Titan in the deck.
Okay. He
That-
Titan. Aftermath.
I think that's it.
Analyst off the top is not going to do it. For Sean, he's surveying the scene, but Ikawa looks like he has finally put himself in a position.
Wow.
Remember, he was down 0 games to 2.
Wow. What a
They've been
match
playing for
these
hours,
2
Monty,
players.
and every single game has been good and close.
I think this was an over 2-hour-long match, Marshall.
And not easy.
Cast Virtue. Ikawa says 1 card in hand. I have no reason to counter
1 card
this.
in hand means I win.
I win, says Ikawa. Sean going to tap everything and extend the hand.
And that's going to do it. Yoshihiko Ikawa wins his quarterfinal match over Sean Goddard and improves to the semifinals. What an epic
Look at
epic match from our 2 quarterfinalists. That was only the first one of the day, Monty.
I am shaking right now. That was so incredibly close, so incredibly good from both players. And Ikawa really demonstrating why he was our overnight leader and just continued crushing throughout the weekend, overcoming that matchup. No easy feat. The rest of the top 8 is going to feel a lot more relaxed, I think.
Right. We talked about Ikawa wanting to continually improve his position, and he's standing with Ailey right now. Let's hear what he has to say.
I'm here with Yoshihiko Ikawa, who has just picked up a victory here in a grueling 5-game match. That was a reverse sweep. You must be exhausted. So tired.
Yeah, so tired. this match, maybe I have played the longest game. Yeah. Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, main board. So it's hard to win for me. But after sideboarding, maybe a little favorable for me. So I trust my deck and play, and I got it.
You did. After sideboard, the game completely changed, and you managed to rally back 3 wins in a row. Wonderful stuff indeed. Up next, though, you're facing either of the Esper mid-range players, and you've been crushing that the entire week. You feeling good about that matchup?
Yeah, this weekend I crushed the Esper mid-range 4 in row, and I think favorable matchup, so I want to win. Yeah, I want to win. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, best of luck. Go prepare for that, and we'll see you in the semis.
Yeah, thank you.
You heard him this weekend. I crushed them, and it's my favorite matchup. I want to win. What else do you need to know? Ikawa onto the semis. We'll be back at the news desk after this break.
Catch the fish, catch it! You knew it was going to happen. Hey, everybody, welcome back to